Now on to our session. Again, this UGC session will address partnerships in research, academics, and operations to advance the SDGs. It will be a case study of George Mason University. The session has three primary objectives, broadly speaking. One is to explore how George Mason University is building an ecosystem of sustainability. Second is to discuss how other universities are approaching sustainability in their work. And third is to share experiences and best practices amongst the universities and institutions here at UGC. And the layout for this session will be essentially, after this brief introduction, will be speaker presentations, moderator questions, audience question and answer session, and then we'll close out the session. Our two presenters today are Leah Nichols and Greg Farley. Dr. Leah Nichols is the Executive Director of the Institute for Sustainable Earth at George Mason University, where she's leading the ISC team in creating connections locally, globally, and across disciplines to put Mason's research and scholarship into action. And Mr. Greg Farley is the Director of University Sustainability for George Mason University, where he's leading the way on greening the operations of the university. So without further ado, I'll pass it to Leah and Greg for their presentation. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Baruch. It was a great welcome, and we do hope that this will be a dialogue. We're going to go through an overview of what we're doing at Mason, but really do want to have a conversation with all of you who are attending this afternoon to talk about what you might be doing and if there's synergies across. So just to dive in, as Baruch said, we are working to create and foster an ecosystem at Mason that really enables and supports a culture of sustainability. And we're doing that by trying to build out organizations and structures that facilitate the intersections and the connections that need to happen, both to advance Mason sustainability, our own operational sustainability, as well as to engage the Sustainable Development Goals beyond our university and our community and the world. So we have three organizations that we wanted to highlight today. The first is the Institute for Sustainable Earth, which I do run, where we're putting research into scholarship and action for a just, prosperous, and sustainable world. We'll get into more details about that in a second. Sustainable Mason, or the Office of Sustainability, is run by Greg, and they're working to accelerate the institutional action and policy and practice around sustainability. And the last is the newest organization that we've created, which is the Mason Sustainability Council, and we're working with this council to identify opportunities that leverage Mason's research strengths and in operations and to pursue integrated sustainability. And we'll get into detail on all three of these in a second. So hang on. So starting with the Institute for Sustainable Earth. This was launched about 2.5 years ago in 2019. And we're working to connect diverse faculty, staff, and students from all across Mason's academic units with each other and with our local, national, and global partners to build vibrant communities of research and practice. We are situated underneath the Vice President for Research, Innovation, and Economic Development. So we're centrally located and serving as a networking organization to really start building the bridges across our academic units and disciplines, as well as to serve as a front door or a concierge service, if you will, for our local, regional, and global partners. So people who want to work with Mason can come to the Institute for Sustainable Earth rather than trying to sort of navigate the very complex landscape of faculty and students and programs and curricular opportunities. They can come to us and we can help integrate them into, help integrate their research and sustainability and resilient needs into the university so that they can tap into the resources that we have available. We do organize ourselves, or utilize the Sustainable Development Goals to organize our structure and our framework, in part because these goals really do capture the full breadth of sustainability. It helps us move beyond sort of some preconceived notions of sustainability as really being only focused on climate and ecosystem or conservation, all of which are important, but we also want to broaden the conversation, as the SDGs do, to include addressing poverty and hunger and equity and justice. However, we have, in order to make it a bit more manageable within our landscape and community, we've identified 6 focal points. All of these align directly with the Sustainable Development Goals, but they really sort of capitalize on the particular research and curricular strengths at the university I won't read them all, but you can see each of these 6 research themes or focal points are serving. We're trying to use them as kernels, or if you will, to nucleate or catalyze the research communities of research and practice around each. We're also still drawing bridges across all of them as well. We're not trying to create new silos. Some strategies and the ways that we're working to build communities of research and practice. We've centralized communications about sustainability research opportunity news and events. We issue a weekly newsletter that highlights all of the different opportunities or events happening anywhere in the university, so that are focused on sustainability. And so that there might be an event happening in the College of Health and Human Services focused on health equity that might be extremely interesting or important to somebody else who's doing research in the public policy school. This is one way. By centralizing communications, everybody who's interested in sustainability and the SDGs can come together and find each other in this complex landscape. We also host more deliberate convening events where we bring people together around, or researchers and students work together around roundtables to discuss intersections of research interests around specific opportunities or topic areas. We're working to deliberately build out those networks, and we're also working on capacity building to help teach faculty skills about how to engage with partners across disciplines and put their research into action. And finally, we do provide seed funding to get some of these projects and ideas off the ground. I also wanted to highlight the 17 Rooms U at Mason initiative that we're right in the midst of. And in fact, our summit is on October 1 at the end of this week. We've been working with the Brookings Institution to pilot the 17 Rooms, their 17 Rooms U protocol, taking their global protocol that they utilize around the UN conferences and bringing it down to the local level at our university. However, of course, the dialogues engaging at Mason can include our operations, but also our global community as well. Simply put, we've organized and are orchestrating 17 different dialogues that are inclusive of our faculty, staff, students, and partners, each focused on identifying near-term actions that they can take to make progress on the SDGs within our community or utilizing our community and our partnerships. It's, I think, going to catalyze action. Like I said, the summit is on Friday, and we hope to really slingshot out of that summit into a whole plethora of initiatives that are advancing the SDGs. Greg, I'll turn it over to you now for the Office of Sustainability.
Thank you, Leah. So if the Institute for a Sustainable Earth and Leah's team represent the sort of academic pursuit of sustainability and the research pursuit of sustainability for George Mason, our team in the Office of Sustainability, broadly speaking, is tasked with the operational side of sustainability for Mason. That is, we're sort of the stewards of operational sustainability. We're tasked with sort of greening the university and building a culture of sustainability across all parts of the university. So, we can sort of break what we do down into some very, very large sort of subcomponents. But our office was founded in 2007 in response to the university's commitment to reduce its carbon footprint. Like a lot of sustainability offices, we are positioned within facilities, and that's at least partially because a lot of what we do as an operations team does touch on the facilities group. And we use the Sustainable Development Goals as a sort of thought guide for what we do in our office. But our formal planning tends to be much more direct and very much more sort of on the ground. So we do a lot of planning and assessment and reporting for the university. We're the custodians of, for example, of Mason's carbon footprint, which is the pie chart you see there on the far right. We do a lot of the tracking and the rating systems and a lot of the submissions that keep us in compliance with the various commitments that the institution has made. Leah, next slide, please. We also do a lot of work in food security and food and agriculture, primarily by way of a series of on-campus gardens and our hydroponic greenhouse. We actually grow produce and move it into the campus dining halls. And that's a very unique, I think, setup for North American universities. We have a number of organic gardens and permaculture sites scattered around the campus. And, one of the big sort of tasks for our office, in addition to the operational sustainability, is we've done a lot of student engagement over the years. And we do a lot of student internships, a lot of service learning opportunities, and a lot of volunteerism across sites, primarily within this agriculture and food track. Next slide, please. We also do an awful lot of student engagement in other ways. We are the custodians and the sponsors of the Campus Earth Month celebration and the Campus Sustainability Month celebration. And then our Patriot Green Fund is a $100,000 facilities fund every year that is open to applications from student and faculty teams doing research with sustainability outcomes that have positive outcomes for the campus itself. So the photograph on the right here, you're looking at a Patriot Green funded stormwater robot that it was developed to crawl through our piping network and can help our maintenance team detect breaks in our stormwater network and target areas for repair. So activities like that are also on our shelf. And we do a lot of sustainability communications, a lot of sort of integrated projects with our parking and transportation team. We're working on waste and recycling and sustainable purchasing and things like that as well. Next slide, please. So the notion of a Mason Sustainability Council arose for the university in response to some conversations that a group of students had with the administration. This goes back, I think, about 3 years now. The student perception was that there was more that the university could do to act on sustainability. They're learning about these things in classes. They're doing research on this in laboratories, and they felt that the university needed to apply what they were learning. And so the Sustainability Council was put together as an institution-wide initiative to integrate the research and academic strengths that the Institute for a Sustainable Earth represents with the ability to actually do projects on the ground that the operations team represents. And so in this Venn diagram, the Mason Sustainability Council sort of operates in that area of overlap between those two sets of responsibilities. One way to think about this is that done well, what we would do is we would use the expertise in our research capacity to address our own challenges and our own problems on the physical campus, and vice versa, we would offer the physical campus as a site for research and learning for our faculty and our students, thereby rendering the entire campus or all of our campuses something of a learning laboratory, a living laboratory. So the goal here was to sort of use our own expertise to address our own problems at home, and then to use our capacity at home and use our facilities at home as a way to boost the research capacity of the institution. Next slide, please. Membership on the MSc was very, very deliberately drawn together to reflect that balance between operations and research and academics. And so what you're looking at here on this slide is a list of the complete membership of the leadership for the Mason Sustainability Council. The small dots in green, broadly speaking, represent the academic side of the university. Many of these positions are underneath the provost or have direct contact with students or with research. And then the dots in gold, broadly speaking, represent sort of the operational parts of the university. And it's not always that clean on the org chart, but functions like advancement and communications and government relations, capital strategy. This is the institutional half of the non-academic half of the institution, the support services for the academic role that have come together to say sustainability is important to us. We need leadership that both thinks about the best practices and then thinks about how we're going to implement those, what the resources are that are necessary, things of that nature. And then you'll notice there are some dots here in black. Excuse me, the black dots represent, capacities that are neither fish nor fowl. These are governance bodies, the faculty senate, the staff senate, the student body, and the graduate student association. And what we wanted to do with that part of the design was to make sure that staff and faculty and students broadly all felt that they had a voice in how the university was going to set priorities for and then pursue sustainability actions, again, in that sweet spot where we're leveraging our own research opportunities. Next slide, please. So when we first put the MSc together, we dedicated a pretty large amount of time to developing some guiding principles and some goals that the body would pursue for itself. And very quickly, we recognized there are sort of 5 large sort of guiding principles by which the group tries to operate. The number one goal on that list is to make sure, in keeping with the UN SDGs, that we center social and environmental justice at the heart of all of our sustainability activities. And what we're trying to do here is to distinguish sustainability from environmentalism or from conservationism that has gone before, right? So this is something of I think an upgrade to the university's pursuit of sustainability, and it makes it very explicit that we have to consider racial justice, social justice, environmental justice as we consider solutions to the challenges on the campus. We are the group set for itself a guiding principle of engaging a culture of sustainability. They set for themselves a really broad mandate to ground all of the university's decisions, academic and operational, and co and extracurricular, in sustainability. What we're trying to do here is to, again, forge that culture of sustainability, and to answer the demands of our students and our faculty, that if we're going to pursue these things in our research and our teaching, that these are important on our campus. And then finally, the last two goals, obviously there's a large set of this that is operational, mitigating our physical impact on our campuses. And then hopefully, if we do all of 1, 2, 3, and 4 well, that we should establish the university as an international model for how universities ought to be going about incorporating sustainability into all that they do. Next slide, please. Couple of notable successes, things that are in progress at the moment, but that have been extraordinarily successful. So in March, the governor of Virginia issued an executive order eliminating single-use plastics from all state-funded institutions of any type, higher ed, and then across sort of the departments that make up the state government. And that was an enormous project. But because we had the ability to go back to the Sustainability Council and say, we need resources to work on this, we need a guiding effort at this, we put together a task force, called it our Circular Economy and Zero Waste Task Force, that is an outgrowth of the Sustainability Council. And we have successfully eliminated an enormous amount of single-use plastics. This is not only in our own operations, but that also is across all of our vendors and concessionaires. And we're working now to develop a 5-year plan to eliminate the ones that do remain. The biggest and sort of most significant challenge on that front was we eliminated single-use plastic water bottles, had a vendor replace them with water and aluminum cans. So it can be done. And I encourage you to go back to your own institutions and work on goals like that. We are embarking on climate action planning. Again, through the Sustainability Council, we have engaged with a consulting team to develop a new climate action plan. And again, in keeping with the spirit of the Sustainability Council, we hope to bring faculty and staff and students and alumni and community members together on a steering committee to help the consulting team understand sort of the university's ethos about sustainability. And this is in pursuit of UN SDG 13 climate action, right? And so again, a lot of planning going on at the moment. The Sustainability Council is sort of wrapping its first year of activities. So we have other things we could point to, but there's an awful lot of planning going on. I think if you talk to us next year at this time, that we would find that some of this planning has been translated to action. So next slide, please. At this point, I'll open it back up to Leah if there's anything else you think we should highlight or things that you think we should say.
I think that was great. I would like to move on to some questions and really hear from our audience members as well. So I am going to stop sharing just so I can see everybody. But this is our contact information, and we are more than happy to reach out and connect with anybody here to discuss this with you all as well after the fact. So Baruch, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Leah and Greg. Very informative and insightful presentation. And to our attendees, please feel free to ask your questions again via the chat feature, or you can come in via video and audio. Just request to share your audio and video, and we can bring you into the conversation that way. Definitely want to make this as engaging and conversational as possible. So please do so. And while you're formulating and asking your questions, let me ask a few moderator questions if possible. And the first one speaks to your last point on the Mason Sustainability Council, which is the new university-wide initiative. And it's coming, obviously, with some challenges, successes, and new opportunities. So if you could share, you highlighted a success. Are there others that you want to share, potential challenges and opportunities with engaging?
If I could jump in first, Greg.
Absolutely.
Greg highlighted some of the key successes that Circular Economy and Zero Waste Task Force certainly allowed us to get the right people in the room across the different organizational structures to make that significant change and pivot within the first couple of months. However, having all of those people in the same room also creates one of the most significant challenges, which is really trying to keep it's very easy for one quote unquote half, if you will, of the room to sort of slip down into their own world, sort of get down into the weeds of facilities or operations, or kind of get down into the weeds of curriculum or research, and really keeping the conversation at that intersection. It's really exciting to do. So it is one of the key opportunities as well, but it is constant tension. So sort of people want to sort of fall into their places where they're most comfortable, and they're sort of the culture is already built around. So this structure allows us to create some of those to start opening up the culture that we're interested in. Greg, did you want to?
Yeah, I absolutely think you're right. Certainly the challenge, I think, sometimes is getting everybody to speak the same language.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, I think the SDGs provide, a really good basis for that, because there's a sort of recognized lingua franca at the university, that these are goals that we should be in pursuit of. At the same time, I think there's a great deal of success to be had there, because we have had some really wonderful discussions where, folks from the sort of the operations and business and the finance parts of the institution talk directly with the research capacity of the institution, directly with the academic parts, people in the provost's office, to discuss, well, these are sustainable ideas, and these are the things that we are developing through research, or these are the discussions we're having with our students, and they're in the same room with the people who actually have to sort of keep the lights on and pay the bills. And so there are some really, I think, some great opportunities there as well.
We're also, I think, we're working in this direction, but one of the opportunities on the horizon is really to start seeing the research and analytical needs that we have coming out of to address our own sustainability challenge translate into curriculum opportunities, to engage curriculum opportunities, as well as research, as Greg said at the very beginning. And so this council structure allows us to sort of get fine-grained understanding of what are these research needs, what are the ways that we can really leverage our landscape, our vast community of researchers and students and get them engaged and involved. So.
Wonderful. No, thank you for that. And you've hit on one of the key points and concepts of this conference is the Sustainable Development Goals. And so if we can speak a little bit more to the SDGs and essentially the role of the SDGs in the operations of the MSc, and also developing new partnerships at George Mason University. How has that been sort of integrated across research, academics, and operations?
I think, as I alluded to earlier in my remarks about ISC, the Sustainable Development Goals really help create a framework that both showcases in the individual goals the different sort of high-level critical needs that need to be addressed across the board, but also the intersectionality of all of those. So often sustainability is sort of seen as a side thing. It's just climate, or it's just managing ecosystems on our grounds or something like that. Well, no, it is actually also engaging with poverty and hunger and equity and justice. And Mason is in the midst of a similar sort of engagement around anti-racism on our campus. And so utilizing those sustainable development goals, it really gives us an immediate and direct intersection. And we're looking to build the bridges between all of the efforts that the Anti-Racism and Inclusive Excellence Task Force is engaging at the university, and make sure that all of those thoughts get into and points of view get into the work that we're doing, so that we're never we're trying not to exacerbate problems as we try to address others. Greg?
Yeah, I again agree entirely. The excuse me. I think if you go back to those 5 principles that the goal that the Mason Sustainability Council has set for itself, those are very different from principles that other universities have set, which tend to revolve around sort of the traditional 3-pillar model for sustainability, right? Like you have like the people, planet, and profit model. And the Sustainable Development Goals gave us, I think, a little bit richer background and a little more context. So as that team was developing guiding principles and goals for itself, certainly the traditional environmental sustainability is in the room, but it's now integrated better, I think, with the social justice aspects and the environmental justice aspects. It's an attempt to do it in a more integrated fashion where we're looking at partnerships and we're looking at ways to engage with different facets of the university that might otherwise have been left out. So I think that the Sustainable Development Goals, although not explicitly reflected in the way the Sustainability Council has drafted its own outcomes, I think that the richness of that tapestry as a backdrop really helped flavor what that group developed.
Wonderful, thanks for that. And here, I think at this juncture, I'm going to drop a question in the chat for the audience to consider as well as we're sort of conversing. It's really to think about how your respective university is leveraging its expertise in research, academics, and operations for sustainability. So maybe you would want to take that on. But as we're doing that, let me pose one more question to our panelists. Essentially, we've discussed the MSC, Mason Sustainability Council, Institute for Sustainable Earth, and the Office of Sustainability. And if you can speak to the various approaches with engaging university students. So how are these entities engaging university students to advance the university's sustainability goals? If you could share some of that with us from your respective viewpoints.
Leah, I can take lead off on this one if you.
Please do. Okay. Please do. I'll jump in later.
I want to offer like a giant tip of the hat to our student body. They are really interested in sustainability, and they bring to us, a sort of a really rich diversity of ideas. We have a very active Student Environmental Justice Alliance. It's, I think, a very much a unique organization among students. 2 years ago, they put themselves the task of running the first ever environmental justice conference for students by students in the state of Virginia. And they were certainly, very, very successful in that, despite the fact that they had planned the entire thing as an in-person conference and then found out 2 weeks before the conference that the university was pivoting to online status for COVID. And so their response was remarkable. We have tried very hard to get student representation, not only onto the Sustainability Council itself by bringing in the student governance bodies, but also on task forces. We are bringing students actively to the table on that. We have students who are more than willing to offer suggestions, and we need their creativity and their energy at the table. There have been a couple of curricular efforts driven by faculty members to help the university prepare for and plan for sustainability. So a pair of courses, one in the spring of 2020 that drafted a sustainability strategic plan using student ideas and student research to sort of flesh out an overarching sustainability plan for the institution. And that's become a source document for the MSc in its own efforts to develop sustainability strategy. And then following that, in fall of 2020, there was a similar class that drafted climate action goals and a draft climate action plan for the institution. And again, as we go into climate action planning with the consulting team coming up here, that's serving as a source document. And there's a student representative who's written, as I understand it, I have not yet seen the draft, but as I understand it, a very comprehensive climate action proposal for the institution that will serve as raw material for the planning event. So, we have tremendously good students at both the undergraduate and graduate levels, and I love their energy, and I love the creativity they bring to this.
Greg, you covered it fabulously, so I don't have much more to add. I will say that as we're engaging our local and regional and global partners, ISC, we're working to develop internship programs. We have a close partnership with Future Earth and worked to put interns, Mason students, into some of their global research projects last summer. We're looking to also similarly place students in research roles with sustainability managers in some of the cities in our region as well. And we're starting to work, we haven't quite conceptualized it fully, but we want to figure out how to build in programming and incentives to bring students into the research agenda, research projects of our faculty as well.
That's wonderful.
I do hope all will, everybody on the line will feel comfortable to unmute yourselves and join the conversation. We really would love to hear how you are thinking about this at your university and what sorts of strategies you've engaged to really build these bridges across research, academic, curriculum, and operations. So I do hope people engage on the question that Baruch dropped in in the chat a minute ago. Feel free to ask other questions as well.
Well, I've got one, because you mentioned engaging the students in research, and beyond that, our faculty and staff and their research. How are we taking that, their research sustainability, and translating it into action? So the research to practice, how does that come through in the area of sustainability at Mason? I know ISC does focus on this, so maybe we can highlight some of the efforts.
As does the Mason Sustainability Council. We are very much in a learning phase. And so what we're doing right now, particularly with the council, and then also with our local partners, is really trying to understand what are what are their sustainability and resilience challenges, and as fine-grained of the need as possible. And then trying to identify how those needs can be translated into university engagements. What are the timelines? Is it a need that needs to be addressed in the next couple of weeks? That's harder for the university to engage, though we're also trying to figure out ways that we could potentially have students available to address those high urgent needs, analytical needs. Is it something that is actually longitudinal, so that we could the need for longitudinal analysis actually is a perfect fit for curriculum engagement, because it can be embedded into courses where students are learning the techniques and the tools and the skills to gather the data, and bring it in on a quarterly basis or semesterly basis. And we're working to try to get that data into the hands of the Office of Sustainability and the facility side of the equation to facilitate decision making or to inform the thinking that we're doing around sustainability. And then also, is it more appropriate for a research agenda where we need to bring our faculty and our students to think creatively, or test out innovations, or really engage to understand the problem and develop solutions or co-produce solutions with our partners. And all of those are relevant whether or not we're looking at our own operations or whether or not we're looking at challenges, sustainability and resilience challenges with our cities. Greg, did you want to add anything there?
I just wanted to, again, a tip of the hat to the cooperation between operations and academics. But ISE has been, good enough to host a couple of research roundtables.
Thank you.
Where we have brought needs that the campus has. So by way of example, when the governor's executive order eliminating single-use plastics was announced, Leah and I sort of talked briefly, and Leah opened the doors to her faculty. That she has 500 affiliate faculty who think about these things, right? And we threw open a research roundtable and asked, are there ideas that the university should consider as we develop a strategy to eliminate these things? What should we replace them with? What are the information needs we had? And we went back to the operations team and some of the folks who do waste and recycling and generated a couple of questions. We've done that, I think, 2 times now about different core questions in sustainability for the institution. And it is amazing and just so inspiring to hear faculty with research who has direct applicability to the questions the university is facing, to hear them sort of brainstorm with us and say, well, this is one thing we might think about, or this is really an unknown in the research right now, where there's a chance for us to lead on that. And so those kinds of cross-pollination activities, this partnership between operations and academics, I think, is terribly unique. I really think more institutions should explore ways to do this, because it does feed back, I think, both on operations and in academics in some really significant ways.
Absolutely. Thank you for remembering that.
Sure.
In mind. But Greg and I meet on a weekly basis, both to coordinate the council, but also to coordinate efforts across our own efforts across the 2 organizations. A very fruitful partnership. A pleasure to engage, as Greg was saying. Inspiring to be able to connect across, because the community is very interested in seeing action happen. And so being able to facilitate the relationships and the partnerships to make that happen is really rewarding.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. If there are any questions at this juncture, certainly happy to take them, but we may need to start wrapping up our session here in the next minute or 2. So we'll give folks a chance to engage.
I just
Go ahead.
wanted to one more time offer a chance to reach out to either of us. Leah's webpage is ise.gmu.edu. And our webpage here in the Office of Sustainability is green.gmu.edu. You're welcome to reach out at any time if there are questions we can answer, or if you have ideas that we should be considering, we'd love to have them.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
so-
you all for engaging or for joining our conversation. We do hope to connect with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you to the both of you for being here and presenting, leading the discussion on a very important topic across the nation, around the world, at the university level and beyond. Thank you to the audience for joining the conversation. And also thank you to the UGC organizers for hosting a timely event and conversation. Finally, this event and the session in particular will be recorded and up on the UGC website, so look for it there. And thank you so much for being with us.